orders. It's going. Jump off. Do you like that?
Having knocked down over the past 30 years most of the chimneys within range of home, Fred Dibnah, the Bolton Steeplejack, found himself making ever-lengthening journeys to come upon something still standing to work on. This morning he was deep in the Yorkshire Dales.
Oh, the parochial church council come to see justice. I think there could be a certain element that they're pressurising me to get on with it, because we should have been here a week or two back.
Oh. There's a bit here I missed last time I come.
A stone there?
Yeah, the dowel's rusted and blown a big lump out.
I know the vicar quite well. I've known him for near 30 years. You know, when I first started steeplejacking, he gave me one of my first jobs. He's a good lad, he's all right, Barry. One thing that saddens me is religion's not what it used to be. There's not as many people go to church as used to do. I like working on churches, so nice and peaceful. And then I like doing a bit of gravestone reading, you know. There's some of them have quite interesting tales on. But they seem to be doing a lot of this modernising now. Rip them all up so they can mow the lawn a bit easier. And a lot of the old ones, which of course are the very interesting ones, they smash them up and make fireplaces out of them. Really, I've always liked climbing up church spires. There's something magical about them. Once you get up right where the point is, it feels quite nice. It's unlike a chimney because, of course, you've not got the bulk of the thing in the way. And, like, the views are quite splendid. When you're up here, you've got your head in the clouds and you're like the king of the castle, and it gives you a wonderful feeling of security.
What's it like?
That's where them iron bars are inside.
Has it gone right through?
Yeah, I can see straight inside. Yeah.
What's the rest of the motor like in the joints?
Yeah, it's all rotten, you know. It's not been in a long time.
Well, nearly 150 years.
Yeah. Now then,
now give us the worst.
yeah, well, it ain't that bad really. The thing is, even though it doesn't look as though there's any nicks up there,
No.
the joints are so fine, you know, it's really
Yeah.
beautifully built building. And what is in the nicks is like stuck on front, you know, so what it wants really is, so it wants raking out and doing again, you see. And the weather vane is, you know, in reasonable order, apart from it having no gold on, you know, all that's been long gone. I don't think even any of you ladies can remember when it was gold. The top of each mullion where the louvers are, the iron dowels expanded and blown a lump out of each one. Now what I'll do, I'll root it out and put a bit of copper in and then sort of concrete it up. And hopefully that'll last, you know, see us all till we go up yonder. Yeah, well, I'm going. The other thing is there's a big crow flying around somewhere that lives inside there, and it's getting in through that round hole at the top. So if I stuff a fistful of chicken wire in the hole, that'll stop its tricks, you see, because it'll still be going up there with box of wood, you know. That'll upset it a bit, but it'll like, find a suitable tree, won't it, you know, instead.
It always seems such a dangerous job, you know.
Well, Yeah, it is.
That's an
If
understatement.
you make a mistake, it's half a day out with the undertaker. the thing is, when I was a lad, you know, I used to be a joiner, and till I was 21, before I went insane and started this job. And the guy I worked for knew that I wanted to be a steeplejack, you see. And every time somebody fell off a chimney, he used to pin it on the back of the door. And by the time I was 21, the back of this door was full of pictures of dead steeplejacks. But I'm still here. You know.
Ah, yeah. Very much so.
Good thing you are.
Terrible experience.
But you see, 150 feet up?
Yeah.
Well, Johnny can beat you at that. I mean, he lives about 2,000 feet up. Eh? Right at the steps of Mallandale.
What do you do? Are you a farmer on top of this mountain?
Yes,
Yes. What, them
Hillbilly.
them woolly things. Them woolly things, of course, they
that's
make
it,
pullovers out of.
Yeah,
And
that's
they
it.
come up on Sunday lunchtimes, yeah.
Well, you can't ever get cut off though, Johnny, because I mean, like on Saturday it was hailing up a snowstorm up on the top of Malham there.
Well,
And you're even further up than we are. Come on.
In the past we've been cut off a lot, you know, but machinery's a bit different now for opening roads with, isn't it?
And have you ever actually got stuck up there? You couldn't move for days.
Oh yeah. My mother was once 10 weeks and never saw anybody other than family.
Really?
In 47, like.
That was it, oh, in 47, the famous winter.
12 weeks of school. You can tell and all, it sure.
Yeah, I know that.
Coming out, it's not long since you got stuck down here and put it over.
What, you missed school for 12 weeks?
Yeah.
Ain't that been great, wouldn't it?
I would.
Oh, well, this person there who lives not so far from where George lives, well, he committed suicide, really. Found him in dam, and it was a year when there were quite a lot of snow. And anyway, it came time for the funeral, and of course they couldn't get him to church any other way than on a sledge. And so they were pulling him jollily along from Ayton to Kirby Malham, and then we got to the top of the hill, coming into Kirby Malham, and he must not have been dead on right well, this fellow like, because when we got to the top of the hill, he shot off sledge and zoomed down the hill and landed up at the doorway into the pub. Well, he spent most of his time in pub, like, so I went
Come for
to
the last
come for the last one.
There's just one thing, he wouldn't complain.
No, I don't think he would, no.
The thing is, this church light, you know, a plague with bloody pigeons, and Vicar sent for me up the top with a wire netting, you see, and we've been there an hour or two, and there's a shuffling up the spiral staircase, and the vicar appears. He said, "Hey, could you cut the banging about 11:45, he said, with a funeral on?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem, like, you know." Anyway, it's 11:45, boom. The cortege arrives, and we're looking down through the louvers, you say, from the bell chamber. And it's a real posh upmarket job, you know, climber jackets and tall hats and Rolls Royces. They're just coming up the drive with the cross, and Paul Bearers are behind him, you see. And I noticed that the wire that drove the chiming mechanism on clock had come off the pulley wheel, you know, and it were on the pin that were on the chattel that were anchored to the bloody 200-weighted cast iron weight, you see. And this weight were just stopped level with an handrail that were like stopped any person falling down a wooden box that went for about 80 foot down the inside of the tower, you see. And so I said to my dad, who were assisting me at the time, "Get that plank out at the corner, we'll put it on the handrail and you press down on the end, and when the weight goes up, I'll put the wire back on the wheel, you see." And for us sort of mechanically inclined, we were a bit short on the fulcrum, so we searched around in the dried pigeon droppings and found half a brick. And we got the half a brick on top of the handrail, and he's on the end of the plank, and the weight's going up, and I flicked the wire onto the pulley, and I said, "It's on, it's on." And he let go of the plank, you see. Now, by this time, the 3/4 of the way up the aisle with the coffin, and sort of this guy were a bleach works on, he was like, a bit like Timothy West, you know, Hardacre, you know, sort of, he's halfway up the aisle within the coffin, and the bloody brick went down the inside of this box, you know. Have you ever whizzed a brick down a mine shaft? It was boom, 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 boom. They pulled up, they thought the old bugger had woke up, like,
Fred, this other church of mine here, if you look up above the clock, you'll see the louvers there.
A bit of a mess.
They're hanging out, almost falling out, and, 500 years old. What do you reckon?
Time for renewal, I
Time
think.
for renewal? Gosh, I think so.
Yeah.
Now then, you can renew them, can you?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The ones like on this side have survived quite well, haven't they?
Yeah.
But them being on the other side have
Yeah,
suffered a
yeah.
hell of a lot.
And what about the cost?
Well, I don't
Oak?
know. Yeah, well, it's about 2 inches thick as well.
I know.
Yeah, yeah. A few coffin lids in that lot, Cock, I'll tell you.
It's Fred, I've got a church council tonight,
Yeah,
and I want
yeah.
to say to them, look, it's going to cost approximately this. Now, what about
Well,
it?
I don't know. I wouldn't think you're going to have much change out to 600 or 700 quid.
That much?
Yeah, yeah.
For a few pieces
Damn
of
you.
wood?
Yeah, well, it don't look so big from down here when you get up there. Like they're 2 inches thick, and it is oak.
Oh, well, I'll let them know.
A Taiwanese bloody mahogany front door, it's 100 quid.
Well, I'll let you know.
Driving in the countryside, you can see where all the guys who owned the land must have been dead awkward because the bloody roads bend round corners of different fields, and with very little effort they could have swapped half a field for guy over the road and made the road straight, but they'd be, that's my field, you've got to go round it. It just surprises me more people don't get killed in country than they do,
Now, with the work getting further and further away from home, find myself like booked into hotels, and I can remember at one time I used to get very overawed. Didn't really like hotels. The communal eating part of it were always a bit frightening, not picking the right knife and fork up and being gazed upon by strange eyes. Like it used to frighten me a bit and upset me the thought that somebody had to pay the bill. In fact, an example a few weeks ago, the guy behind the bar kept saying, "Oh, I've one on the room number." And I'm thinking all the time, that's adding more and more to the already fairly substantial amount that the people that we're working for has got to pay. People say there's a vast difference in between like the north of England and the south of England, and all this, they're more friendly in the north, It's a load of rubbish that, I think. Wherever you go, there's always awkward buggers. It's often more profitable to work far from home. I often wondered why half the nation races about, in my eyes, unnecessarily, when there are good men on the doorstep that can do the job. It's just a waste of energy, petrol, time and everything. It's funny how it works, really. You can go and look at a chimney in Bolton and say you want X number of pounds for doing it, and there's some guy who'll come from Manchester and do it half as cheap again. And you can go to the other end of England, a bit of a chimney, and they'll pay you a bloody fortune for mending it. At the beginning of the euphoria and excitement of a new job far from home, first sort of 3/4 of the week is all right, and then you begin to miss being at home. It's a bit like being a sailor, I suppose. You get on a ship and you disappear for 6 months. It's a strange life, when you've been used to coming home for your tea at 5 o'clock every night for years and years and years. I get more and more frustrated with the fact that I can't get on with my tractor, When you're working at home after tea, if you only do half an hour in the shed, it's a little bit nearer. But when you've been away all week and you come home and you're a bit reluctant to zoom off into the shed in case you get a good talking to, a bit of a shouting at off Susie, you've been away all week and now you've disappeared in the bloody shed, like.
And so in the course of his summer travels, Fred came to Cambridge, not on this occasion to its halls of learning, but to an institution once more vital to the well-being of the city, the Victorian refuse destructor and sewage pumping station on the south bank of the River Cam. Fred was there to repair the chimney.